I mean, even Azov Battalion went to Israel and did a little trip over there, right?
I heard about that from Natsox actually, that they visited the Western Wall.
Right, and so does Putin. So they don't care about that, right? It's only again it's the tactical selective noticing, right?
He's just playing 4D chess, I guess.
But that's I noticed they were doing that. This is when I started to really question this thing because
Yeah.
especially in the Russia Ukraine, the selective noticing of these people is incredible. Right? It's like, oh, we notice Jays, but only on the Ukrainian side. We notice Jays, but we notice them going to Israel, but only when Ukrainians do, not the Russians. It's so dishonest. So this is the clip of Putin where he's defending Hitler's invasion of Poland. Let's play it
I
here.
didn't even
Maybe you
know.
can't hear it. I can hear it on my screen. So
I could read the
Польша
captions.
наделала очень
If
много
anything, I'll
ошибок
find it. I know where
перед
to find it.
Второй мировой войной. Ведь
5 days
Германия
ago,
предлагала им мирно
United
решить вопрос по
2020.
Данцигу и по Данцигскому коридору. Польское руководство того времени категорически отказалось, и в конце концов пала первой жертвой нацистской агрессии. И полностью отказалась вот еще от чего. Но историки наверняка это знают. Польша тогда отказалась от того, чтобы Советский Союз помог Чехословакии. Советский Союз готов был это делать. У нас в архивах документы лежат, я это все читал лично. А когда ноты писали, да, в Польшу, Польша сказала, что ни в коем случае не пропустит российские войска на помощь Чехословакии, а если полетят советские самолеты, то Польша будет их сбивать. Ну, в конце концов, пала первой жертвой нацистской агрессии.
so this is not the first time he said this when he's trying to go at Poland, right? So why do you think he's? Why do you think he's? So by the way, if you were to say that about the Soviet Union and say, "Oh, it's Russia's fault that Hitler invaded Russia," actually, you didn't negotiate properly, man. You go to jail in Russia if you said that.
Yeah, I know. Putin dislikes Lenin, but I know he praised Stalin. He praised. I'm sorry. He antagonized, insulted Lenin because Lenin helped reshape the borders. He helped create Ukraine. I read that, and I'm pretty sure
Hmm.
he doesn't recognize the Holodomor as genocide, and that's what Stalin did.
So if you, this is pretty topical because I wrote that. Remember, I wrote that article about Putin and Hitler having a similar foreign policy, where they're both doing a form of Lebensraum, right? Well, Hitler's Lebensraum was ethnic based. It was more ethnic, cultural, but also ethnic. And Putin's
Hmm.
is more of a cultural and ethnic. It's kind of both, but it's more cultural than ethnic because he includes Russian speaking Tatars as Russian citizens or any kind of Central Asian Muslim who happens to speak Russian, but he's colonizing eastern Ukraine on the basis that they're quote unquote Russian speakers. So it is a cultural territorial expansionism. And it makes sense why he's defending Hitler's expansionism because they have a similar pretext, right? Hitler's like, there's Germans in northern Poland, there's Russians in eastern Ukraine. It's really the same style. And he's going off about the Danzig thing. Oh, you didn't negotiate over Danzig. It's like, yeah, you know why? Because Hitler broke every agreement that he made prior to that. Munich, Versailles. He just stomped on every treaty he made and kept taking more
Very
land.
personal.
So you wonder why the Poles would be hesitant to give Germany a bigger foothold in the north of Poland and control all of the ports. But look at this. So the Nazis won a majority in Danzig election, 1933. May 1933. You see that?
Hmm. They had
Hitlerites
SWAT all over written in the buildings. I saw your video.
Hitlerites and allies cast 51% of votes and control New Volkstag. Now, if you were just to listen to the Wignats, you would never know that because they want you to believe that Poland had a jackboot over Danzig and were stomping the heads of Germans day in day out. Impossible. 95% German city run by the Nazi Party.
All swasties, vandalism, and all over the buildings in that city.
Right, 1937. This is what it looks like.
Yeah, I've seen that video on your ex actually. Go for it.
So they want us to believe that this is the city the Poles are rampaging and slaughtering and killing Germans in. It's a complete hoax. Adolf Hitler Street. You got the Hitler Youth there on the streets.
X.
This doesn't look like they're committing a genocide. They claim the Poles are committing a genocide. Well,
I read there was a massacre. That's all.
in this city with German police everywhere, like that would be pretty incredible if they pulled that off, right? So notice the incredible similarity. Putin says we have to take back our people, and the Ukrainians are committing a genocide in eastern Ukraine.
There was no genocide.
Isn't it the same thing that Hitler said about Poland?
Yes. Yes. Oh, that's important too. That's a good college I made.
So we'll jump to that just in one sec. Let me play this video here. Okay, so this is a video contrasting Hitler's speech to invade Poland and Putin's speech to invade Ukraine, and it looks pretty similar.
Мы настойчиво и терпеливо пытались договориться с ведущими сторонами НАТО.
Es ist eine Lüge, wenn in den anderen Welt behauptet wird, dass wir alle unsere Revisionen nur versuchen, unter Druck durchzusetzen.
Мы никому и ничего не собираемся навязывать силой.
Alle diese Gebiete verdanken ihre kulturelle Erschließung ausschließlich dem deutschen Volk. Dazu wurde von uns gedrängt. Sie kennen die endlosen Versuche, die ich machte, zu einer friedlichen Klärung, zu einer Verständigung über das Problem Österreich, später über das Problem Sudetenland, Böhmen und Mähren. Es war alles vergeblich.
Бесконечно долгих 8 лет мы делали все возможное, чтобы ситуация была разрешена мирными, политическими средствами. Все напрасно.
Deutschland hat keine Interessen im Westen. Der Westwall ist zugleich für alle Zeiten die Grenze des Reiches nach dem Westen.
В наши планы не входит оккупация украинских
He lied.
Den anderen deutschen Gebieten des Ostens, vor allem aber die dort lebenden deutschen Minderheiten und das Wahlvolk, die weise misshandelt.
Ее цель – защита людей, которые на протяжении 8 лет подвергаются издевательствам, геноциду со стороны киевского режима.
Danzig war und ist eine deutsche Stadt. Korridor war und ist deutsch.
Украина для нас – это не просто соседняя страна. Это неотъемлемая часть нашей собственной истории, культуры, духовного пространства.
So identical rhetoric, right? Incredibly similar. Now that's why all these neo-Nazis became ziggers, right? Because they're both doing their little Lebensraum project.
Well, it's interesting that Putin made a law to ban memes of comparing Hitler and Putin. Actually,
Wow. Yet he just defended Hitler's invasion of Poland, as we just saw, right? So talk about this thing here. What is this?
I made a pick college of Russian officials stating that NATO is not a threat to Russia and how NATO is a boogeyman. NATO was used as a boogeyman, and it was about, conquer Ukraine.
So this guy Andrei Kozrev, he says NATO does not pose a threat to Russia.
Yep.
This article quotes Bondarev told CNN that the invasion of Ukraine was about destroying Ukrainian statehood, not about a genuine security threat. Gurulyov, a retired general, said that NATO's threat is not as severe as portrayed, suggesting Russia's military focus on Ukraine was driven by territorial goals rather than countering NATO aggression. Anyone else important here?
I see the former state TV editor. There were other people I listed.
Speechwriter.
Yes, Putin's speechwriter.
She argued, or he argued, that the Kremlin uses NATO as a boogeyman to distract from domestic failures and the Ukraine war's cost. Foreign Minister Kozrev has made a statement against Putin's lies, says NATO is not a threat to Russia. Nobody threatens us in Europe. By definition, these are our partners and friends, and we must integrate with them. This former state TV editor said that the Kremlin's claim of a NATO threat is a lie to scare Russians. Yavlinsky said NATO expansion is an issue that the Czechs, Poles, and others have to resolve. Russia has no right to teach Warsaw, Budapest, or Prague, or anyone else which alliance to join. No country has the right to tell another country what to do. Yavlinsky, opposition party, he said Kremlin's NATO threat narrative is a pretext. Now that's incredible, because this isn't that exactly what Putin said and
Lavrov
Lavrov.
too. Yes,
So what did Lavrov
and
say? This is 2005.
I showed you that.
Break it down for us. What did Lavrov tell us?
Quote, that's their choice. We respect the right of every state, including our neighbors, to choose its partners to decide for themselves which organization they want to join. And the question was, does the right to sovereignty also mean for Georgia and Ukraine? For example, that Russia would have nothing against their accession to the EU and NATO.
Wow. So that's incredible, coming from Lavrov, who's the main spokesman justifying the war based on NATO expansion. So in 2002 and 2005, all of the top Russian officials are green lighting NATO expansion, saying they have no issue, it's their choice. Putin said that too here, right? He says, at the end of the day, the decisions to be taken by NATO and Ukraine, it's a matter for those partners. I'm convinced that Ukraine will not shy away from the processes of expanding interaction with NATO. So
I think I know why. I think I know why they green lighted at that time, but there was no promise not to expand it. I think the reason why they greenlighted is because they had pro-Russian politicians at that time, like Yanukovych. Yanukovych at the time, he was prime minister, and they had President Kuchma. He was pro-Putin at the time, and he changed his mind on him.
So this is what the Russians do. So they say one thing one year, and then they flip it the next year and say, now we get to do brutal aggression against you because we changed our mind.
They changed their minds more than they changed my socks.
Yeah, so it's just incredible that prior to this invasion, Russia is saying exactly what everyone thinks, that these countries have a right to decide for themselves about NATO membership, not Russia. I mean, if we applied that standard that a different country gets to decide your NATO membership, then Morocco could just kick up a storm one day and say, hey, we don't like that Spain's in NATO. Spain should leave NATO. And Spain would listen to them? Really? It's ridiculous to give a neighboring country control over your security affairs, but that's what Putin's demanding.
That makes sense why the Kremlin tried to kill Yanukovych's political rival before the election. They tried to poison Yushchenko, Viktor Yushchenko.
Right. Any Ukrainian president that wasn't compliant, malleable, was targeted, right? What's this clip here?
Putin's contradictions.
Значит, Крым не является никакой спорной территорией. И Россия давно признала границы сегодняшней Украины.
Это были российские солдаты или нет?
Это были местные силы самообороны. За спиной сил самообороны Крыма, конечно, встали наши военнослужащие. Я не скрываю. Конечно, это факт, мы никогда его не скрывали. Наши вооруженные силы
прямо скажем, блокировали вооруженные силы Украины, расквартированные в Крыму.
Хочу, чтобы вы меня услышали, дорогие друзья. Не верьте тем, кто пугает вас Россией, кричит о том, что за Крымом последуют другие регионы. Мы не хотим раздела Украины. Нам этого не нужно.
Мною принято решение о проведении специальной военной операции.
Подчеркну, в боевых действиях не участвуют и не будут участвовать солдаты, проходящие срочную службу. И не будет проводиться и дополнительный призыв резервистов из запаса. Поставленные задачи решают только профессиональные военные. Считаю необходимым поддержать предложение Министерства обороны и Генерального штаба о проведении в Российской Федерации частичной мобилизации.
So basically, just to go back for the people who couldn't see it, first he said Crimea. We don't consider this Russian, right? That was, or he originally said we don't have any interest in taking Crimea, and then they took it. Then here he says there's no Russian soldiers in Crimea. They're local self-defense units, and then he says, actually, yes, they were our soldiers. We're not hiding it. We never concealed that. And then he says, oh, yeah, there's just so many times where he's lied and then admitted he's lying. He says, we're not going to conscript new soldiers, and then he launched a massive conscription program.
And then he said, oh, whatever happened to Crimea, it's not going to happen to other oblasts. And it did.
Right. So you see how he plays the game. So Putin, he lies to your face. He says, we're not aggressive. First he said, we're not going to invade Ukraine, remember? That was the mantra. We're not going to invade. That's just U.S. propaganda. All the tankies said that. All the lying ziggers said that. And then he invades. And then all the tankies and the ops and the sleeper agents came out and said, yeah, he's justified to invade Ukraine anyway, big guy. Okay. So this is Prigozhin?
Yes.
So what did he say about all this?
He said that NATO was not a threat to Russia, and the argument that Ukraine was run by Nazis was also a lie. Putin was saying that Ukraine was a Nazi country because of the Azov battalion. They said the Maidan, there were anti-Semitic forces. Also, you're familiar with Bandera. He used to be considered as a national hero, and that was taken away by Yanukovych. And then who became president after Yanukovych? Poroshenko and Zelensky. They never overturned that decision. He's not considered the national hero anymore. And also, they called Kiev a fascist regime because Poroshenko signed decommunization laws.
Right. So from the Russian POV, a fascist and a Nazi is really just something they conflate with anti-Russian, right? Like, opposition to Russian expansion, opposition to Russia as a dominant hegemon. Just opposition to Russia is what they call a Nazi, but that's obviously not really. I mean, it's true that the Nazis were anti-Slavic and anti-Russian, but they're also anti-Ukrainian and anti-Slavic in general. So it's not exclusive to Russians, but they play fast and loose with that term Nazi, right? It's pretty much anyone in Eastern Europe that's not for Russian domination.
I wonder what happened to Prigozhin. I wonder if the Kremlin investigated it.
Yeah. So that was an incredible time. So Prigozhin did this massive turnaround. He's Putin's dog, right? He's recruiting criminals and scum out of jails to go fight in Ukraine in the Wagner Group. Just a disgusting Putin shill, right? His lieutenant. And
The Wagner Group is committing cannibalism in Africa. I saw, I read.
Yeah, Putin recruited cannibals out of jails and sent them into Ukraine.
He also
So,
rewarded a pedophile, actually, too, as
right,
a hero. Yeah, he did.
as long as the pedophile cannibals kill Ukrainians, then that's
Mhm.
what Putin's all in.
Yeah, he also gives. I forgot his name. He's the leader of the Rusik group, I believe. He's a neo-Nazi. Putin gives him a pass. That's because he's following the aim goal, the military goals.
So Prigozhin totally just spit in Putin's face. He says, "You lied. You lied about the reasons for the war. NATO wasn't a threat. There's no Nazis really in Ukraine except for some schizo skinheads. But there's schizo skinheads in Russia too, and there's schizo skinheads fighting on the Russian side in the Rusich battalion.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's schizo skinheads everywhere, but to claim that the
yeah. Sure that
government,
he went against Putin. It was reported on BBC. I know it's Western news, but he said it in a Telegram video. He posted on his Telegram that Putin lied. He lied based on the war.
yeah, he lied about everything. He also said that this idea that there was some genocide going on in eastern Ukraine was a hoax, and that there was minimal fighting happening in the year prior to the invasion. So let's
Of
think
course,
about that.
it was both sides who died. There was like 21 or 25 people died on both sides. That's like a turf war, dude.
But the deaths in 2021, that's the year before the invasion, was the lowest it had ever been in the entire war since 2014. And yet this is the year that Putin decides we have to invade to stop this so-called genocide, when
That's not it.
there's hardly any fighting going on, and now he has to invade. He didn't invade in 2014 when there was 2,000 deaths on both sides. That's not enough to invade, but it is when there's 25. Doesn't make sense.
I think Merkel's Nord Stream helped Putin invade.
So this here, I have a whole video about Putin and Islam
Yeah,
and
I've
how
seen it. I love that video. And
so
Putin's
these
Black Power pivot, I saw that video. It was very good.
yeah the whole third worldist tendencies there in Russia, the anti-white rhetoric that they pull out tactically when they need it, right, to woo the African masses to their side, and then they'll flip it and do like some tactical pro-white rhetoric to get the yuppies and the wignats eating out of their hand as well.
I think I read something like that. It was, I don't know if it was Putin or Lavrov stated that, oh, there's anti-white racism going on in America and it's concerning.
Yeah, yeah, and then then you got another video of Putin saying that whites are genociding black people in America and the Indians. So notice he plays every side that he needs to play to get people riled up, pit them against each other, whip them up, make a base sound bite here, a base sound bite there, and he wins. This is the Kremlin media strategy: is just to throw out bait for every possible political faction to get them all on his side, right?